From out of nowhere comes LR Teq Broly's EZA, and man, does he look amazing. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video, and right on schedule. We have the LR EZA details for the LR Teq Broly. So in this video, we're going to talk about what he's doing and sort of what this means for the part 2 of this year's worldwide download celebration. So let's go ahead, let's jump on in and take a look at his details. Shout out to the homie Goresh for posting these up. Been a while since we've actually had him post out the details, so kind of nice to have Goresh back on this. So let's take a look here. So he is now a Resurrected Warriors key 4 and HP attack and defense 150% with extreme tech key 4 and 100% HP attack and defense, which makes sense for a yellow coin LR EZA. We're not using him for his leader skill anyways. His new updated 12 key now raises his attack for the turn and causes colossal damage while greatly lowering enemies' defense. His 18 key super will greatly raise his attack infinitely and greatly raise his defense for the turn, causing mega colossal damage while massively lowering the enemy's defense. His new passive, Devilish Chase, gives key 3 and attack and defense 200% and gains an additional attack 120% when performing a super attack, plus an additional attack and defense 120% if it is an ultra super attack. So if he's doing the 18 key, he's getting an extra 120%, right? So that's kind of a lot to think about, right? So because he's getting his start of turn 200%, then when he attacks 120%, and then an extra 120%, right? So all in all, like when attacking, once he starts attacking, he's getting an additional, what is that? 440 attack and defense. That's kind of crazy. Plus an additional 50% when attacking an enemy who's in attack down or defense down. And the nice thing about this is a lot of bosses lately can be one or the other in the early phases. So that really does kind of help him out. He also gains key 3 and launches an additional attack that has a 50% chance of becoming a super attack when facing one enemy. He also gains key 5 and launches an additional super attack when facing 2 or more enemies, and then transforms when conditions are met. And if I remember correctly, his transformation is just turn 4, if I remember correctly. So actually, let's just pull that up and confirm. I just want to make sure on that here. Where is it at? Before we go, let's just click on Broly, and should be right here. Yeah, okay, so I am pretty sure it's just turn 4, but let's make sure before we give some wrong information. Yep, that's what I thought. It is just 4th turn from the start of battle. I like, if they're going to give him a turn restriction, I do like it being that. So it's just guaranteed. And since it's a passive transformation, that does mean that there's a chance they could lower it to turn 3, which means, you know, I actually don't. Well, let's see what if he continues to keep the, yeah. So maybe that's not such a good thing, right? If they probably won't lower the condition, seeing as he stacks attack in this base is like the blue duos, right? You kind of want them to stack a little bit in base. So I could see them not changing that, so you can take advantage of that. So I mean, all in all, his base looks decent. I mean, it's not the greatest, but I mean, he's gonna get a bunch of extra attack. Defense is probably gonna be all right, just to stall for a turn or 2, right? Remember, on his first appearance, you'll probably have LR Teq Broly, the new one, to kind of, right? This one here, you're going to have him to provide some defensive support for that first turn, so that'll be helpful. So let's look. So once he transforms, right, on that 4th turn, his new 18 key is greatly raising attack and defense for the turn, causing mega colossal and massively lowering defense. And then his 12 key is raising attack and defense while greatly lowering defense. Okay, so I mean, kind of neat that he's massively lowering the defense, right? So in fights where you can do that, I think like Cell Max, right? Like at a certain point, you can lower Cell Max's defense. Being able to massively lower is just going to help you clear that event that much faster. And I'm guaranteeing you the new Broly event that we're going to get is probably going to have something similar too. We'll talk about that more in a minute. So yeah, all right, already looking powerful. So basically they just changed his stacking to for the turn, but it is greatly raising both attack and defense, so that's good. His new passive, Devilish Siege, getting Ki 4 and attack and defense 220%, and an additional 120%, and an additional performs an additional attack that has a 50% chance of becoming a super attack when performing a super attack. He also gets an additional attack 166 and guard activated against all attacks, and extreme class allies chance to perform a critical hit 6% for 2 turns if it is an ultra super attack. So when he launches the 18 Ki, he gets guard, right? And gives critical hit to allies. So that's nice. That really helps. Think like Int Broly. That would really help Int Broly if he's on the next rotation. So, okay, that's really nice. The only thing is, right, since it happens when he's getting his 18 Ki, right, he's not going to have it before attacking, which means you don't want to put him in slot 1. I don't know why you would put him in slot 1 anyways, but, just don't do that until you do the 18 Ki. And then he gains an additional attack 100% when attacking an enemy who's in the attack down or defense down status. He gains Ki 4 and launches an additional attack that has a 70% chance of becoming a super attack when facing 1 enemy, and gains Ki 6 and launches an additional super attack when facing 2 or more enemies. Okay, so I mean, kind of the same thing, right? In his base, right? When facing multiple enemies, you have guaranteed super attacks, which makes sense. It helps you clear those extra enemies. But when facing 1 enemy, he's only got a chance, and I mean, at least the chance is greater when transformed. So, right, you think he's got, so let's assume two characters, right? You're facing 2 or more, right? So he's got he's got his 18 Ki, then he's got a guaranteed additional super, then he's got a 70% chance, and then he's got his 50% chance. So that's not too bad. And then vice versa, right? If he's only facing 1 enemy, you've got the 70% chance, another 70, then the 50, right? So, I mean, it's not too bad, right? So, all in all, all right, what I'm seeing is pretty good. He's definitely going to need to be protected in base, like most transformation characters, but it seems like, just looking at the raises here, 220, 120, 166, right? He's going to be an all-out monster, right? And even more so if you can face an enemy who defends or attack down, which you can do. There's quite a few bosses that can do that. So, like, I mean, even in the Go Frieza fight, I think the 17 and Frieza can be attack lowered. One of the phases in that fight can be attack lowered, so he'll be able to take advantage of that. So, very, very nice. So, it might not be the 17 and Frieza, but there is a phase in there I think that can be. So, all in all, still pretty darn good. And so I actually want to I want to see his calcs here, right? So in base, these are his calcs. Shout out to Halvard for posting these. So in base, right, on that very first turn, assuming no support, he's going to have just a little over 1 million defense, which isn't a lot, but it'll tank the normals for the turn. With 40% support, he's got 1.2, but consider his first turn is probably also going to be with the new LR Teq Broly, so that number is actually going to be a little bit higher. Not much higher, but I mean a little bit higher, to the point where, you know, a super's probably not going to kill you if this is, you know, turn 1. Maybe Evokin's super, but I mean, that kills pretty much anybody turn 1 that isn't, you know, some of the top tier LRs, right? Like that super even kills Blue Evolution Vegeta on turn 2. So, I mean, it's worth noting, right? All right, so let's see, what about transform? So, ooh, okay, a lot better when transforms. Yeah, so there we go. Like, so there's all those additional supers I'm talking about. So, you know, let's say without support turn 1, you're 1.1, right? But chances are you are going to have support. So you're probably, and yeah, probably somewhere around this number. So Halvard does include the domain, because by the time you bring out Teq Broly, if not the first turn, depending on when he starts, then by the second turn, right, you'll have AGL Broly's domain up, right? So if you include that, right, he's looking at about 1.4 to 1.5 with 40% support. And again, 40% support's the minimum. I understand why he gives 40% support, but consider the support on this team is LR Turles. You're not getting 40%, you're getting way more. So consider that this number is going to be much, much higher. Combine that with his guard, I mean, he's tanking just about everything. Like, the only thing that might be an issue is Gogeta's super, maybe, but also consider he can be attack lowered, right? So, I mean, and the reality is, like, I mean, look at this. Look at how many attacks he's going to be doing, right? Right? You have your guaranteed, right? So you have your 18 key. Then you have your, so let's just say this is Gogeta, right? You have your 18 key. You have your 70% chance. You have your second attack. And then you have your hidden potential proc, right? Like, he's gonna be fine with this plus, let's say, 70%, 60% from the Turles support, right? Yeah, he's gonna have more than enough defense to survive when you combine that with guard, right? I think the total number, if you actually consider Turles' support, if he got all the supers, is probably going to be somewhere around 1.7. So even then, even if he didn't get all of them, right, on average, you're probably seeing, right, anywhere between 1.3 and 1.7, I would say, is probably going to be your average. So that's still pretty good when you also consider the amount of damage that is coming out of him, right? Consider this is Teq Broly's second slot unit, and so shout out to Luke for posting this because we can tell exactly what he's going to be doing, just like we could with Int Broly. So let's say this was turn 1, right? So after supering his turn 1 with Broly support, see, this is what I talked about. With the Broly support, you're actually looking at like 1.3, which is, yeah, what we said earlier. And a 19 mil super, if you actually get the third super, so that's honestly pretty good. Okay, and then, right, so I think he's saying he shows up turn 2, right? And if he shows up turn 2, he actually will transform on his next appearance. If he shows up turn 1, he'll actually get 2 turns of stacking. But let's say this, so here's what I'm talking about, right? There's that first turn, right, with the support, no domain, right, because the domain hasn't been procced yet, right? He's 1.3 with just the Turles support, right? So this is pretty good. And then look at the attack that's coming out of him. Consider that you're having Teq Broly with slot 1. Teq Broly gets hit. Let's say he does the bare minimum and launches 2 super attacks, right? Teq Broly then comes in and is going to launch 4 of these. More than likely, maybe just 3. But even then, even if it's just that, the 5 attacks between the 2 of these is probably killing whatever's in front of him. And if it doesn't, Turles has the last slot, who will also launch up to 3 super attacks. So, I mean, realistically, something might hit you and it might kill you, but the chances are you are more likely going to be killing the enemy, right? And that's that turn, right? Next turn, right? He gets Berserker active because let's say you took some damage, right? This is the kind of damage we're talking about. That first super dealing over 70 million damage, and his super, so this is the thing, I get why he's doing this, right? It's to prove a point, right? You have Cell Max Domain, you don't have to worry about him taking a hit, but realistically, this would be another support unit, right? Personally, like for me, this would be another support unit. I actually am finding that I don't really enjoy running Cell Max on Broly's team. It doesn't really work out all that well. So let's just say this is another support unit, right? But without support, this is what you're looking at. Again, with this level of attack coming out of him and the level of attack coming out of LR Teq Broly, nothing is surviving that. There are very few bosses in the game that are going to survive that onslaught, right? So, I mean, while this could be an issue I could see, right? Even this, right? Let's say probably on average, you're going to be seeing like the 2 to 3 maybe, right? Supers, right? That's still combined with card, which is going to be more than enough. Like he's not dying to the super. He might take some damage. He's not dying to the super. And we know this because we tested Int Broly out against Evo Ken. And with his supers, he actually survives Evo Ken's super. So being realistic here, combine this with guard, he's probably going to survive most things that are thrown at him. And if a stray super happens to hit him, you're not dying. And then whatever's left is going to take them out, right, in your slot 3. If you're lucky, you've got Cell Max, and he's protecting the whole rotation anyways. Or you've got a support unit that's giving you way more defense than this. Either way, he's looking pretty good from what I'm seeing here, right? And what a perfect gift there. I love it. All right. So I did want to leave you with this. There are a few more things coming. As expected, we are getting the STR Videl EZA EZA, the free-to-play one, not the Dokkan Fest. That'll come later. So from the Second Coming movie, and we are also getting a new stage to this event, right? I told you guys this event wasn't done, right? So we are getting a new Kid Trunks from this, and it's weird that they don't show him, but he is an int type, and I can almost guarantee you he's going to have this new mechanic. This new Dragon Ball mechanic is probably going to be introduced with the part 2 LRs, right? It's basically like if you pick up a Dragon Ball like that's on the field is kind of what it seems like. All right, and I'm almost 95% certain one of the part 2 LRs is going to be from Second Coming, and it's going to be the Family Kamehameha that is going to rely on this new mechanic. But of course, when we have a new mechanic, they have to introduce a free-to-play unit that does show it off, and my thinking is here it's probably this Trunks, because if you actually see the art for the Trunks, I don't know why it doesn't show it here, but the art for the Trunks is Trunks from Second Coming, so it's more than likely the case. And then of course we are also getting a new stage added to the Devil Awakens. Now what's interesting in here is it doesn't mention anything about Super Saiyan Goku, right? It specifically says form teams that you can take pride in, which this makes me feel like this is going to be probably one of the hardest events to date. I'm probably going to say it's going to be as hard as Cell Max Stage 2. That's going to be my guess, and my guess is we're going to be fighting against Second Coming Broly. So just worth noting that, you know, all of this is coming. This is 2 days out, right? So Teq Broly should be dropping by the it's the 7th, so by the 9th or 10th we should be seeing Teq Broly in game. That's usually how it works with these. So we'll get him just before the start of part 2, and then part 2 will be announced the very next day on the 11th at 6 a.m. PST, which will be 4 a.m. my time. So fun stuff there. Can't wait to wake up early for that one. So that is it for the video, guys. That is the details for the LR Teq Broly. He's looking pretty good. He's looking pretty fun. Just one more unit to add to that team with LR Teq Broly to push out that massive damage. That is the one thing I love about Broly and his team, is that they are just oh so very powerful. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what are your thoughts on LR Teq Broly? He's looking pretty good to me, but I want to know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.